Hello chess friends and welcome to the Out of Chess channel and welcome to really one of the most spectacular games from the computer Blitz Chess Championship in 2024 that you can follow now on chess.com. We have here the two top engines Caissa and Torch battling it out in a crazy Semi-Benoni defense, and this game is really spectacular because Torch managed to do something with what even the Stockfish engine didn't manage to do. Torch actually, in a bad pre-arranged opening, managed to win the game with the black pieces. Really crazy stuff. Usually, if you have followed maybe this computer chess championships, also some other TCC competitions, usually white has a huge advantage in the opening stage and then black is trying to defend his position. But Torch in this game managed somehow to turn things around and found really what was, in my opinion, really one of the craziest tactics that I've seen in my life. I would even dare to call this is the Torch Immortal, and I'm really glad that I can really show a Torch a really brilliant game, because we know that the Torch Chess engine project is now shut down. The Torch Chess project will not be continued, so maybe this as a good goodbye. I would say this is a perfect game here by the Torch Chess engine. So let's dive now into the game with the white pieces. The Caissa chess engine opened with the move d4. We have c5, the old Benoni, but this moves, as I mentioned many times, are pre-arranged, so I will tell you of course from which point the engines are calculating the position for themselves. So we have now the move d5, we have now the move e5, the old Benoni stuff, e4, and now for move d6 we have now the Semi-Benoni. Healthy structure in the center of the board, but of course the downside a little bit also always for black is that the dark square bishop doesn't have such a great activity. The dark square bishop many times should be somehow included into the game through the square g5. So we have now bishop to d3, protecting the f5 square, because also in this Benonish King's Indian structures, many times black is trying to break and enter with the move f5, g6 by Torch, preparing of course the move f5 in the later stage of the game, not immediately of course. First you should secure the king by Caissa. We have c4. Here of course Caissa supports the space advantage that it has here in the center of the board, especially here around the square d5. Of course white is now I would say a really important advantage in the early stage of the game. We have now bishop to g7, knight to c3 normal development, knight to h6 still prearranged by the organizer. Then after move h3, f6, bishop to e3. Now after move knight to f7 we have reached now the last move that chess.com prearranged, and now from this point on the engines are calculating the position for themselves. Let's also stop evaluate a little bit the position. The Stockfish engine, my Stockfish engine at home, suggests that this position is much better for white. It evaluates the position 1.1 in white's favor, so it's a huge advantage. Usually when Stockfish has such a huge advantage, it cannot lose simply the game. Maybe you can squeeze somehow a draw out of it, but Stockfish many times destroys its opponents when it has over +1 evaluation. After move knight to f7, I think the good part about black's game is that white cannot go into this common flank attack ideas with queen to d2, bishop to h6, which you try many times to do. You're trying to trade off the dark square bishops, getting rid of the key defender, and then launch a flank attack. This idea is not working because black has a great defense with the move knight to f7, and also with the move bishop to g7 has a great control of the h6 square. So this idea is somehow to keep the dark square bishop on the board, but the downside, again I'm pointing out, is that the dark square bishop is not so great because of this blocked out pawn structure, f6, e5, d6, c5. Too many pawns on dark squares in order to make something with the dark square bishop. So you have a nice solid setup, but you're lacking in development with your minor pieces. So we have here knight from g to e2, and as I said here, white I think should be much better. But of course you see also white has a huge advantage in development, because white has brought out 4 minor pieces. On the other hand, black has played some maneuvers, has only 2 pieces out in the game. But okay, after knight to i6 here by Torch, Caissa continues with bishop to c2, bishop to d7, castling, and now a good idea I would say here by Caissa. A very nice move, I think, very nice positional idea. Bishop to a4, trying to get rid of its own bad piece. We can say that the bishop on c2 was not really the powerful piece, because it's also blocked out by its own pawn structure. So that's why Caissa is trying to get rid of its bad bishop against a very powerful bishop of blacks, the bishop on d7. So I would say a good trade here for white. After bishop to a4, bishop takes, queen takes, and now f5. The common sort of King's Indian idea to try to break and enter here with the black pieces. E takes f5, g takes f5, and now Caissa controls further the e4 square with the move f3, f4, kicking with the bishop, bishop to f2, and now Torch found a really interesting idea, knight to h6 with the preparation to get the knight on f5, and then maybe attack the e3, or maybe if even possible the g3 weakness in white's position. We have king to h1, Caissa improves the position of the king, knight to f5, and now knight to e4. Again, good moves here by Caissa. I was really surprised how it played very well positionally. Here, look at this. The knight fits almost like in this Tetris game, fits simply perfectly into the square e4. Control simply the center of the board, is not allowing here the dark square bishop to breathe. Black would love to do something like e5, e4, pardon me, and then simply try to somehow include the bishop into the attack. Knight to e4, nice blocking idea. So king to h8, here Torch is trying to liberate now the g file for the rook. We have rook to g1, and now queen to c8, a3. Here Caissa is preparing the move b4, rook to g8, queen to c2, and after move bishop to h6. Again, really, what was I was really surprised by Caissa's game in the beginning. Caissa found here really brilliant idea with the move b4. Very nice tactical shot, because if you play here c takes b4, Torch didn't play it, but I wanted to show you how dirty this idea by Caissa was. C takes b4, a takes b, knight takes b, you can maybe take, but now we attack the knight, you have to step back, and now we play this one. This one is collapsing, and whenever you lose your d6 pawn in Benoni King's Indian structures, I guarantee you, you'll not have a fun game. Look at this, after knight to d6, knight takes, queen to e5, you can maybe try this one, we take out the knight, you can take him now, the rook now, but after rook to a1, this dark square bishop will be simply a killer, will simply destroy Black's defense, and I think from this point on, White is simply taking over. It's simply game over here for Black. So that's why for b4, here Torch kept it calm, didn't play anything wild, played now the solid b6, simply improve the pawn structure here. On the queen side, we have queen to a4, we have rook to g6, knight to c3, and now bishop to f8, knight to b5, bishop to e7. You see, again, Torch has some issues where to go with the bishop. The bishop cannot really find active squares. It can be maybe rerouted here, but again, it's not activated because of this really messed up pawn structure. This pawn structure on dark squares. We have rook from a to b1, a rook to h6. Tricky idea here by Torch. There are maybe some tactics in the later stage of the game. If maybe the knight clears, rook takes h3, g takes h3, and then queen to h3 could be even a checkmate. So that's why here rook to b2 by Caissa, covering now the second rank. If something happens, then you still have this resource to cover yourself with the move rook to h2, rook to g6, rook to b1, queen to b7, and now after rook to g1, queen to c8 here by Caissa, by Torch, pardon me. The problem for Torch is that it has to somehow stay always connected to the knight on a6. So we have now rook to e1, queen to b7, and after rook to f1, we have rook from a to g8. And you see now, Torch managed somehow to include now both of these rooks on the g file. The g2 pawn is very weak, so that's why here Caissa had to defend now, but again now bishop to d8. And this was really an interesting move, this move bishop to d8. With this move, Torch is saying sort of, okay, maybe my dark square bishop is not offensively a good piece. It cannot be used in the attack, so at least I can use it in order to defend myself here on the queen side, and maybe play much more freely with my knights, maybe trying to I don't know, protect this pawn on a7, so then I can play freely. So Torch realized that the bishop is not going anywhere at all, so that's why it can be reshifted over to the queen side, where it could be useful in some defensive setup. So we have now rook to b1 here by Caissa. We have rook to h6. Even if you try here something like queen to g7, it doesn't bring you anything. Maybe after something like queen to a6, you think you could maybe win the battle here on the g file, but it doesn't matter. White doesn't have to react. We'll simply play queen to c8, although you have some kind of an attack, but actually the g1 square is well protected by the bishop, by the rook, also by the king, so nothing can be done. So very interesting stuff that you cannot play here queen to g7. So after move rook to h6 that here Torch played, we have king to h2, and now Torch found really one of the craziest ideas that I've seen in my life. After king to h2, as we mentioned, you cannot leave the protection of the knight on a6, but that's exactly what the torch engine did here. Torch included simply now the queen into the attack and left now the knight on a6 unprotected. Really, really wild stuff. So here Torch played the amazing and stunning, and I would say immortal queen to f7. Really, really wild stuff. So what should black do? Obviously, you have to take, because these pieces are starting to dance in front of white's king, so you have to take something and hope for the best. After move queen to f7, Caissa took. Queen takes a6, and now queen to h5. What should you do? This is really a dirty threat here by the torch engine. I wanted to show what's the actual threat. For instance, let's see a bad move now for white. It doesn't make sense, of course, now to play this position in this position to move a4. But I wanted to show how really brutal this attack can be, because you get this one. Rook takes g2. That was the actual idea here by Torch. If you pick up now, for instance, with the rook to g2, then you get checkmated here on the first rank. And for instance, if you pick up now the piece with your king, then queen to h3 is immediately a checkmate. So really, really wild stuff. So that's why after queen to h5, Torch really is building a nice attacking formation. So here Caissa has to be careful and plays now the move bishop to e1 in order to create some kind of a escape plan for the king if, for instance, rook takes g2 happens. So you cannot take now with rook to g2. Torch calculated everything in a good way. You could try it. Seems tempting again, and it seems in the beginning that it could be winning, but believe me or not, after rook to g2, actually it's a thematic draw. I hope you don't mind. I wanted to show you now the whole tactical sequence, because many of us, I think, would try it out with rook to g2 without maybe even calculating till the end and hope for the best, sort of. So, but of course, chess is not a game of hope. Chess is a game of calculations. If you can calculate, then do the tactic. If you cannot calculate, probably you should not do it. Although in this particular sequence, it's actually a draw, because after rook to g2, king takes g2, you can try this one, of course, the king escapes, you're trying to cover, then the bishop is coming, you can even take out the rook on g2, but it doesn't matter, you don't have so many attacking chances. After queen to c8, look at this, we can play something like this, we can pick up the knight, you have, of course, your discovered attack with your queen, but now after king to d3, queen to f3, you can again escape. You can also include now the rook into the game, but again, white can cover. And now after something like e4, the threat is, of course, e3, but again, queen to g5 check, a couple of checks, and now white can bring simply a new defender into the game. Then after something like this, you can maybe sacrifice the bishop. You will get also the piece back, but now because white is up a piece, black has to do perpetual, so with the queen has to deliver checks, and it's, of course, a thematic draw. And that's what I liked. Torch had the opportunity to play instantly a draw immediately, but Torch found, instead of rook takes g2 here, the best idea played now, stunning queen to g6. And this move, in the beginning, my Stallfish engine at home calculated in his accuracy, but if you let the engine run, actually it's a spectacular move. It's a great follow-up here by the Torch engine, again with some threats, with really, really dirty ideas. For instance, what you could try is to do something like bishop to c3, but then the almost, I would say, winning idea here for black is a beautiful bishop to c7. Look at this, how Torch prepared. You remember the maneuver by the bishop, so bishop f6, bishop e7, bishop d8, when Torch didn't find the best ideas with the bishop. Now the bishop is coming in a good way into the defense, and actually you cannot take here the piece on c7, because you get this one, knight to e3, and you're cracking around the square g2. You will simply get destroyed by the heavy artillery that Torch built here, that both of these rooks, the queen lined up here on the g file, the knight is attacking g2. You're trying maybe, let's see, again a4 or something, because you don't have better moves. Then queen to g2, even a queen sacrifice could work here for white. As I said, this wasn't playing the game, but I wanted to show how really brutal this attack here by the Torch engine is. So instead of this move knight to c7, what you could do after bishop to c3 and bishop to c7, you don't have, of course, to pick up the piece. You can maybe try, I don't know, something like b takes c5, but then again knight to e3 is working, and then after something like queen to c8, you have to give up the queen and hope for the best going into this line. Still, it's a sort of a +1 evaluation for black. That's what my Stockfish engine at home says. But I think we can agree that this is completely winning here for black. Although you have some checks, we can step back. You're trying this one, but after rook to f8, we're controlling the 8th rank, and these pieces will be probably traded off. Still, there are some tactics here. The queen is there, so game over here for white. You could also try maybe knight to f2 here instead of knight takes c7 and also the move b takes c5 that we have seen, but it's not helping you out because after queen to g3 we can pick up now the knight on f2, so you don't have time to bring a new defender into the game. It's a little bit too slow because you want, of course, to control the h3. You want, of course, maybe to control with the move knight to g4, the g file, but it's simply too slow, as we said. All of these ideas are simply not working after move bishop to c3 here by the Caissa chess engine. So after move queen to g6, that torch played, that's why knight to f2. You see, Caissa realized the tactical problems, brought now a new defender into the game, but now a stunning idea, knight to e3. And again, Torch is setting up some dirty stuff, because let's see again, maybe a bad move, a4. Of course, no one will play now the move a4, but I wanted to show again the brutal ideas here that the Torch has engine prepared. Now, queen to g3, you're trying king to h1, then this one is working, knight to f1. Simply, I don't know, deflecting the rook from the defense of the g and h file. You get this one, and of course, queen to g2 is a checkmate. After knight to f1, you could maybe try knight to g4, but then rook takes h3. Really wild stuff. Look at this. G takes h3, queen to h3. You can cover, but now queen takes h2. Game over again here for white. So see, knight to e3. Such a brilliant move. Prepares queen to g3, knight takes g2 stuff. So that's why the only way to survive this attack is actually a stunning idea here by white to move knight takes d6. And actually, look how Torch calculated everything in a good way. White has to give up back the piece now, because there is now a problem if you try now the move queen to g3, the move that we have seen previously. Now it's not working, because even if you try this move knight to f1, then there is this problem, knight to f7. The echo is now the king, of course, to the square g7, and now the g file is not open. So that's why here the rook to f1 can be played, and now if you step back, we can deliver check here, and now white is holding the position. We can also play rook to g1 afterwards, and it's game over here for black. So see, after move knight to d6, you don't have time to do this checkmate ideas that worked previously in this previous position. So that's why queen to d6. At least Torch got its piece back, which was very important, and has now also centralized knight on e3. This bishop suddenly gets more and more active because the position is getting more and more open, and you see how Torch found finally a way how to get this bishop really in good shape. So after knight to d6, rook to b3, Torch is continuing the pressure on the g file. We have knight to g4, again some messy stuff, because after knight to g4, f takes g4, Torch created here very nice mobile pawns, and has also this one, queen takes g4. In this tactical sequence, actually Torch won also pawn now. So after queen to g4, we have d6, queen to e2, queen to b7, and now queen to c4. So now you see white's position is slowly but surely collapsing here on the queen side. We have now queen to f3, Torch takes out another pawn, b takes c5, rook to g6. Again, the g file attack, which caused many problems in Caissa's position. Rook to c3, queen to e6, and now queen to e4, b takes e5, bishop to f2. Caissa is bringing now the bishop into the game. Queen to c6, good move, I would say, here by Torch. Now Torch is releasing the pressure in the game, says, okay, I had my fun, I played a couple of good tactics, now it's time to slow down the pace and simply go in the fully endgame stage. And of course, in this endgame, white is much worse here. Black should be winning if, of course, black plays now this endgame correctly. g3 here by Caissa, bishop to b6. At least Torch is protecting now the pawn for a while, the pawn on c5, rook from g to c1, f takes g, bishop takes g, and now rook to g5, bishop to f2, again going for this pawn. But okay, here e4 played by the Torch chess engine, simply protecting the pawn on c5, rook to c4, rook to h6. You cannot take here rook to e4 because you get this one. Bishop to c7 leads even into a checkmate sequence, so you cannot do that. So that's why for rook to h6, first h4, rook to f5, and now bishop to g3 here by Caissa. Rook to e6, rook to e1, and now simply pushing the passer. Well, why not? Because black has, of course, 2 extra pawns. Probably black will lose 1 pawn because white king is also close enough to the action. But I think every further trades of pieces, every further trades of rooks is in black's favor, because then it would be a fully endgame stage. If you could just even trade off everything and go into a +1 pawn situation with the black pieces, you're perfectly fine. You obviously completely winning then. So that's why for e3, rook to c3. Now torch is also getting the queen closer, and now we have this first trade, but it doesn't matter. Still, black is relying on this passer on the c file. We have king to g2, c4 again. Good moves here by torch, simply pushing the passer. That's also a very instructive endgame idea. Rook to c3, rook to c5. King gets closer, but also now black's king is getting closer. We have h5, bishop to a5, attacking the rook. Again, c3, just pushing this very nice pawn on the c file. Bishop to f4, rook to d5, rook to g2, and now bishop to b6. Check, doesn't matter. Torch can escape to e6. We have rook to g8, and now rook to h5. Now also this pawn is hanging, and obviously game over here for white. So of course, here in this computer chess championships, the engines have to battle it till the end, till checkmate. So that's why king to e4, rook to d5. We have now this one, rook to c5, trying of course to trade off the rooks, but now king to f7, the rook has to escape. Here here torch protects of course the pawn with king to g7. We have rook to e8, and now c2. Bishop to c1. Now torch is also pushing this other passer. We have king to d3, h4, rook to e1, and now simply again getting the king closer to the action. We have rook to e6, king to f5, going behind this pawn. Torch protected, of course. Caissa is attacking the king, but after move a4, we have bishop to c7. We have king to d4, and now a rook to f5. Again, Caissa is going for this pawn, but now torch found a beautiful idea. Bishop to f4. Even if you try here, bishop to f4, rook to f4, you're trying to take out this one in this position. Of course, if the position is stretched with both pawns on opposite sides, again, obviously completely winning endgame here for black. After bishop to f4, that's why bishop to b2, c1 the promotion. White has to now give up the piece. Again, a completely winning position here for black. Here rook to a6, king to g3, king to e4, and now a beautiful idea here again by torch h3, simply leaving the rook hanging. Even if you try here like Caissa did, king to f5, then this one is pushed, and of course this bishop is controlling simply the h6 course. Game over here for white. Rook to g6, check, doesn't matter. Here torch promotes the queen, gets simply the queen into the game, delivers a check, takes out now the rook, and obviously after a couple more moves, torch delivers the checkmate with a beautiful queen and bishop's activity here on the square b2. Brilliant, awesome, I would say torch immortal game here with the black pieces playing such a great tactic, leaving this knight on a6 unprotected just in order to get the pieces on the other side. The queen was far away from the action when the queen took the knight on a6. Really sort of a Mikhail Tal idea. Only crazy persons, I think, can get something like this, and of course chess engines, but this was brilliant. And as I said, I'm a little bit sad that the Torch chess project is not going to be continued, because it seemed to me that it could be somewhere there. Maybe not immediately, of course, better than Stockfish, but this is a project that lasted only for 1 year, and it is so powerful. So I think it could be the only rival against Stockfish now. Probably it will not play anymore, so it will be again probably, maybe even unfortunately, just a pure domination by the Stockfish engine. But so far Torch has played brilliant chess also in this computer Blitz Chess Championship in 2024. So the current standings are like this. So as I'm recording this video, the result is plus 5.5 points for Stockfish, although Torch has played some games less. But I think Stockfish has now solid lead. But when we watch now also the previous computer Blitz Chess Championships and Bullet Chess Championships, usually it was a much even higher gap between the first and the second best chess engine, so it's not so critical. 5 points or something behind Stockfish is still a pretty good result. Usually it was 60, 70 or something, so now +5 for Stockfish only. It's a great result for Torch, and I wish also the developers of the Torch engine the best. I'm not sure what happened, why they're not continuing this project, but in my opinion, this was simply one of the best games played by Torch chess. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting tactics all over the board. If you want to see some other spectacular, wild, sharp, top AI games, check out our the chess games played by computers. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.